Hey, welcome to the new user experience training series. And today I have my friend Chris with me, brand new user. We're going to walk through getting your account started, literally start to finish. Through this series, we're going to be walking through first login experience, getting your buy box set up, start to underwrite. We're going to do some education, some learning, really learn best practices and how to kind of scale your real estate business. And so, if you're looking for that hand holding experience, that's really what this training series is designated for. So, Chris, appreciate you helping me out. And why don't you share a little bit about what you're looking to do with Buy Box Club and how I can help you out?
Yeah, thank you, Mundo. Don't have a although I have studied a bit of real estate for the past few years. My parents were involved in it for a while. They did houses. I haven't yet done my first deal, and so I'm still looking into wholesaling. I actually have a buyer now who's interested in buying some multifamily. So I have a specific buy box that I can input into your system, and I'm hoping to use it for that purpose.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to get you started with just your own buy box for the purpose of what you're trying to do. What you can do is use your buyer's buy box, right? Long term, what I would have you do if you're wholesaling is because you don't want to be constantly changing your buy box for people that you're buying for. They ultimately would need to come onto the platform and you can create a buy box for free. And that's what removes the pressure from like your investors, right? So if you have buyers and you're just like soliciting them to come in and pay, obviously there's going to be friction there. I've made it to where you can create a buy box for free. So they can create a free account, create a buy box, and that way their buy box is there and you can have your own buy box. And as you're underwriting deals, you can start seeing match scores, what fits your buyers, because ultimately you're going to have more than one buyer, right? It's not going to be just this buyer. But that is how I would operate the property, or the software. But for the purpose of today, if you want to use their buy box and kind of claim that as your own, feel free to go for it. I mean, ultimately, obviously, you can use the system however you want. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to put you on the screen here, and I'm going to be here as kind of like the shadow, right? As you have questions, just ask me, and I'm not going to interject. I'm literally just going to let you kind of navigate the software as a normal person would on their own, and just see what that user experience looks like for you and see where you have questions. And I'm here to answer any questions you have, but just want to kind of see the normal flow, because people watching this, they're going to have those same questions when they first get logged on. So this will be really helpful for them to watch.
Sounds good then, Mundo. All right, thank you. First I'm seeing here, very first thing I'm seeing is the dashboard. I'm seeing an entire overview of what I have. I have done nothing, so therefore everything here is zero. Deals
Yeah, you're
under
killing it, bro. You're killing it.
deals underwritten, potential good deals, otherwise sent, being negotiated under contract. I'm working hard.
Yeah.
Uh,
We'll get
first
there.
Right. So first thing I'm seeing here, since we're talking about getting buy boxes done, or getting that first buy box logged in here. For my immediate check here is my buy boxes, and I can see, okay, create a buy box. I do see my profile is not published yet. I need at least one box in order to publish your page. Okay, so I need to do the box first, and then I can get a profile.
Yeah, so in the future, when people like create an account, there's going to be templates for them to choose from like they could say, "Hey, I want to just create the out of the box buy box and then publish their account immediately." So that won't even be a thing like in the future, but for right now, since you're just creating the account and I don't have that in the system yet, yeah, you can just go ahead and create your buy box and then we can walk through how to publish that.
Awesome. All right. It's a bunch of different tabs here, but I'm going to start with just the basic creative buy box right here. Define your investment criteria to start receiving matched deals. Asset class, okay, meaning what kind of property is this? You got some stuff coming soon here. I'm seeing single family. What is STR? versus LTR?
That would be a short-term rental. So LTR would be long-term rental. And so right now, I think the only one we have is probably for multifamily would be Morby Methods, and we can talk. It's a creative finance strategy. We can talk about that later, but you'll probably just. I think that's the only option that you'll have in there right now. As I'm kind of working out, probably I'd say in a few weeks it'll be a lot more, but that's probably the only multifamily option in there. So you want to select multifamily, I assume.
Sounds right. Yeah. Strategy. You said Morby Method only, so.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
actually, the person I'm talking to, he says creative finance is a possibility for him. Like he's
Okay.
open to it, so that's good. All right, bunch of criteria. Let's see what we got here. Category, first of all, purchase price. He told me no more than around 8 or 10 million on the purchase price. He didn't give me a minimum. No, he did, however, tell me 20
Yeah,
to 30. Sorry.
If he's saying 8 to 10, I think that's probably a good range. You could put that as the minimum, and then you can put the 10 million as the maximum or target.
Yeah, maximum and target. That's interesting verbiage here. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I've gotten that feedback from some people. I think what I'm going to end up doing is splitting it into 3 columns because it does confuse people depending on the metric. If it's target or maximum, I think it needs to be a very clear, like, okay, this is the max, but where's my like target where I want to hit? So
That makes sense.
I've definitely gotten that feedback for sure that I'll be adding in at some point.
That makes sense. I can see that because I would, if I see target, I'm for my purposes, like what I'm doing, I can do 10 million. I don't want to, but I can. Yeah. So like I can see why people be asking questions. What is weight percentage over here?
Yeah, good question. So the way the platform works as far as creating your match score. So you underwrite a deal, and the whole point of the match score is to tell you whether it's a good deal or bad deal. Really, that's it. So this is your own algorithm that we're creating. So every user has their ability to customize their own algorithm. And what this is doing in your buy box is you're setting your minimums, you're setting your targets, and in some cases maximums. We talked about that. And then you're also setting your weight criteria. So let's say, for example, this is a weird scenario, but let's say the only thing you cared about was purchase price, like in your buy box. Like, hey, I want to buy a property between 8 million and 10 million. What you would do is put 100% weighting on that category. So everything else on that buy box wouldn't get graded, right? So think about it as that weighting of each category. So if you're saying, now that's a drastic scenario. So if you go over to cash flow, like there may be 3 or 4 categories on this list that are important to you, and you may not care about the other ones. So the ones that you don't care about, you could just leave it at 0. But if you really care about cash flow, and that's like the majority, the most important thing to you is cash flow, you could mark that at like, let's say 80%. So that way the match score algorithm really focuses on what's important to you versus focusing on stuff that's not important. Like for example, the purchase price may be a factor, a very small factor, but it's not, the driving factor. Like most people care about the cash flow. They don't really care about the purchase price because if the property is 8 million versus 10 million, obviously 10 million is a bigger number. However, if the cash flow is twice as much as the 8 million, everybody's going to want the 10 million one, right? So that's why most people are looking at the cash flow from that perspective on the weighting. So that is how you control your algorithm and how things get weighted, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay. In that case, for my purposes, he did give me like this range, this budget. So I'm going to say that it matters to some degree, but that it's somewhat flexible. So I'm going to give it a good old, I'm going to give it 20. Can I write a 2 in here? Can I write any number other than 0? Hold on. Oh wait, I think it's because these are breaking everything down. Is that why? Okay.
I can't see on my screen. Is it adding up to like what's the total? Is it already graded out or no?
Okay, I'm having trouble with this specific one. These things, they initially were 25 and they were adding up to 100. So I thought, oh, maybe it's just accounting for that and I can't do it because it doesn't make sense. But no, I'm just having trouble getting any like number other than zero in here. I press other numbers and it just gives me zero.
So if you scroll down to the bottom, what is it? What is the weighting? Is it at 100?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would try doing is reducing the weighting on some other category to give you the space to then, because you can't go above 100.
Let's reset here. Oops. Yeah. All right, now it should say zero, and it does.
Okay. See if that lets you change that number now.
All right. I'm afraid not. It lets me change these. It even lets me go way, way beyond here. And it gives me this invalid number, of course. But this specifically is giving me trouble.
Okay, let me write that down. I'll take a look at that. That's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Doesn't. Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to ignore that for
You
now.
want to make sure that it goes up to 100.
Right. I noticed that down here.
For
Weights
other
must total
categories.
100% before saving so that you have a full picture of exactly what matters to you, I imagine.
Yep.
All right. Next one here is monthly cash flow. So my buyer did not give me a specific dollar amount, but he did give me a cash on cash percentage. He said 8 to 10%. So I guess what I can do is I can like go on the high, either go in the middle, say 9%, or I can make the math easy and say 10% of 8 million and do that dollar amount. But no. This is monthly cash flow. So that's year one. Actually, I'm sorry. Cash on cash is yearly. It's not monthly. So what's the math I would need to do to figure this out?
So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom and you see that NOI, click on that info button right there, and it kind of gives you some helpful calculations.
There we go.
On what you would expect for like cash flow and NOI, like that kind of stuff.
Got it.
So that's talking more about like the NOI part, right? How to figure out the NOI. But if you're looking at cash flow, I would say you would probably want to know what that looks like based upon the buy box. You would want to put that in. And most investors, I would say, they would have a good idea of like, hey, I want to make sure I'm cash flowing X amount of dollars per month, like that kind of stuff.
Right. So in this case, I got minimum NOI. Now I do see cash flow listed here. Mortgage is 8 million, 61,000 times 12 months, 740. So that right there is expressing the 8 million that's the mortgage itself. So that's how much the debt is. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's actually going off the purchase price.
Purchase price. Okay.
So the assumption there is that an investor is probably going to be raising 100% of the purchase price through some form of either debt or equity. A lot of times that equity per se is not really equity. It's, usually tied to some sort of preferred return or things like that. But most of the times people in multifamily, like if you think about people doing syndications or funds, they are typically raising all that money, right? Well, that's all debt that they're essentially raising, depending on how you look at it. And they're usually getting paid some sort of dividend or things like that. So kind of factoring it as going off the purchase price and anchoring your NOI off of that.
And actually, I'm seeing that it's using the very numbers that I put in, 8 and 10 million just automatically.
Correct. Yes.
Got it. So
and
that
then
tells
from
me
there you can put in what you want for the NOI, but the NOI is not, that wouldn't be cash flow, right? Cash flow is the bottom line. NOI is before all that.
Correct. So what I can do then, other than just straight up asking him, I can either just take these numbers for it, but he did.
What you can do if you're like, if the investor's anchored on this cash on cash, you could just look on, just use something like ChatGPT and say, hey, based on $8 million purchase price with whatever you said his cash on cash return was, 10% or whatever, what does that monthly cash flow look like based upon that?
Got it. Do you want me to do that right here, or?
So if I look at, I'll do it on my end. Let's see. Now I'm not verifying this. I'm just going off this for the purpose of us doing this. It looks like 800,000 per year, which is 66,666. I don't really like all the sixes there, but if you put that in there, and then let me do the same thing at 10 million. We'll see what it tells me here. So that would be $83,333 for the monthly cash flow.
That was 8,883.
83, yeah, 333.
And what was the first one again? I'm sorry. You said there were a lot of sixes. Is it just this?
Yeah, it was 66667.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, he told me that the cash on cash is pretty important to him. Now, I'm not him, so I can't really give him a percentage weight. But because it's that important and because there are other factors, I'm going to give him this is a solid third of his concern, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right. So next we got debt service coverage ratio over here. Now, I'm told, I think that generally what you want is 1.25 and higher. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really place a ton of weight on the DSCR because that's really more of a lender qualified KPI. For me, just by basic math, if the cash flow is where I need it to be, the DSCR takes care of itself, if that makes sense. Like if I'm hitting my targets, like the DSCR is gonna be strong. So I have it in there that you can put some values, probably wouldn't go below 1, between 1 and 1.3, to your point, 1.25. If you want to put it that's perfectly fine. The more, so this is a good point. The more aggressive you are, or the harder you make the target to achieve, the lower the score, meaning the tighter your underwriting parameters are going to be. So what I mean by that is, if I have DSCR as my target being 1.25, that would be kind of like the minimum as far as like a good quality deal. But if I want to move my target to 1.6, that basically means that a lot of the deals that are going to come through are going to fail my standards because my standard is so high, if that makes sense. So the lower your standard, the higher the scores, the more perceivable good deals, because your underwriting standards are lower, if that makes sense. So you gotta, based on your buy box or his buy box, you have to kind of keep that in mind as you're setting these parameters. If you're setting for something, for some like unicorn property of like $1 million of cash flow, well, I mean, most of those are not going to be $1 million of cash flow. So just keep that in mind as you're putting that in.
Got it. Yeah, I'll stick with just the standard then between these two, especially since he barely mentioned. I don't think he even talked about DSCR at all. So
yeah,
I'm at most I would give this a 10% weight but I can always ask him what he thinks. As far as buyer surplus goes, buyer surplus meaning my initial reaction is what is the buyer surplus of what he's willing to pay, or
yeah, good question. So this is, let me write this down. This is more of a Morby method specific. Typically the way Morby methods are structured is based on how you're financing the debt, there is an opportunity for you to structure reserves into the deal. So you could close and essentially get paid to buy the property. And the smart thing to do would be structuring it to where that extra surplus of funds that you're getting in the deal gets applied to reserves. So that way you can continue and operate and have funds in case something breaks down, like that kind of stuff. So that's what the buyer surplus means. That basically means is at closing, you would get paid 30 grand to 75 grand or whatever, if that was your range. So your investor may not be familiar with this type of strategy, and that's completely okay. So you just kind of have to decide. I mean, based on that, with an asset that large, in this type of strategy, I probably would at least at a minimum want to be at a minimum pulling in 100K, maybe even more. It sounds like a pretty huge number, but you've got an $8 to $10 million property. There's probably a lot of maintenance involved. So I would want to understand the maintenance needs as far as what would typically come from the assets that he's looking at in order to really structure that number. But I would probably start at 100K and maybe target 200K is probably what I would do.
Got it. That makes sense. And again, just briefly, the idea behind what we're talking about here, the surplus itself, the mechanics are you need a certain threshold of money to get a loan for, and the loan amount that you actually get is higher. So and you use the extra amount as a way for those extra reserves.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse too many people as they're just getting started with this, but yes, in a roundabout way, correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so if you're watching this as like a beginner series, I mean, every buy box is slightly different. So if we're looking at single family, we're not going to see buyer surplus. Because if we're looking at, I guess, let me correct that. If we're looking at single family sub 2, well, there is no buyer surplus in a sub 2 transaction. So you're not going to see it on there. So there are differences depending on the buy boxes, like NOI. You're not going to see NOI on a single family, right? Because that's not really what is tracked and measured most of the times.
Right, makes sense. Okay, so cash at maturity. Maturity of what? The loan or the property itself, perhaps? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'll clarify that. I think these are all great questions because it helps me to look at that and be like, oh, well, I should probably rename that to clarify it. That's basically your point of over leverage. So let's say you have a balloon for seller financing or whatever, and that balloon says in 5 years, you need to pay X million dollars. Well, you need to look at the overall capital stack and understand, okay, in 5 years, is the debt pay down low enough and is the appreciation high enough for me to refinance out of this loan and not have to stroke a check at closing? So if that number is above 0, that means that you're going to have to stroke a check whenever you refinance out of that loan, the current loan you have, to pay off that previous balloon if there is one. So if you don't want to stroke a check, you would, if you take the attitude of I never want to stroke a check, it would be at 0 at all times, right? Another way you could look at it, however, is if you structured a buyer surplus and let's say you got $200,000 and then your cash at maturity is maybe $30,000. Well, you technically have 200K in your bank account, right? So you could just hold on to it and you already have the 30K that's needed. So that is one way to look at it. But you also have to be smart with your capital. You may think you need 200K in case, something happens, but what if it doesn't happen? Then you still have that cash sitting there. So it's just one way to look at it, but basically just means the over leveraged amount.
Gotcha. So when I see cash at maturity, what I should think of is how much am I willing to pay at a later time after I've already acquired the deal. Correct. And something comes up for whatever reason, either a balloon payment that I'm expecting, or perhaps not. It could be something like a repair or whatever.
It's mainly focused on the loan. If you have to
Just alone.
refinance the loan, what is the dollar amount in which you're willing to write a check for is basically how I would describe it.
Got it. How would this how would someone be able to control, well, I guess I guess if you know the mortgage, you would know exactly when the balloon is. So yeah.
Yeah, so the software will model out the trajectory of the appreciation. So if we're talking about single family, you can put in there, hey, I'm going to model out an appreciation rate of 3% a year. If we're talking multifamily, it's really performance driven based on what you're able to, perform at on NOI. That's what's going to drive a lot of the value. But it's the underwriting algorithm essentially is going to be looking at either NOI. In this case, we'll just stick to NOI. It's going to be looking at the growth of NOI coupled with the debt pay down overall in X amount of years. So you can, and we won't cover it today, but I'll show you in another time where you can model out, hey, what's the debt payoff look like in 3 years from now and 4 years from now and 6 years from now, et cetera. So you'll know what that point is. So you can use that to your advantage when you're negotiating. So if the deal is telling you in the underwriting that in year 3, you're going to be over leveraged by 100K, well, you can use that information to go back to the seller and say, hey, I can't do a 3-year balloon because I won't be able to like refinance without, having to stroke $100,000 check. You don't have to get into all that, but you have the information to know that this is where you draw the line of like, I have to have a maturity date of X amount of years because that's what, your underwriting tells you.
Right, that makes sense. And obviously, without a deal in front of you, it's kind of hard to just pick numbers. But that I hear what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
All right, property criteria. Now I'm seeing bedrooms. Now in the world of commercial, which I know you don't have yet, it's by units.
Yeah.
What you asked for was 20 to 75 units. Maybe what I can say is 20 to 75 bedrooms. And say the same for,
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that needs to be basically converted to. It will end up being the same thing. I'll probably like literally just change the text of like change bedrooms to units, like kind of thing.
right. And of course, units are that's literally all you need. And because units, some of them have multiple bedrooms, obviously, and whatever. So,
Yeah.
but for now, I'll just say
I know in single family square footage can be important. In multifamily, it's not really a thing, right? Like you're not really too caught up in that. So that would be an example where it's like you don't have to have something in every category. You could just leave it blank and have it 0 weighting, and that's perfectly fine.
Got it. Square footage, I don't have a number on that. I don't think there's an easy way to make one
Yeah,
up.
that's what I was saying. You could just leave that blank.
Your build, he did give me this one. He said 1970 or newer. So minimum, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can put the 1970 as the minimum.
Yeah, and no maximum. So
yeah, you can just leave that blank.
He specifically asked for that. I'm gonna give it another, I don't know, 30, 33 maybe. Probably a little much, but foundation strictly require no foundation issues. He said he was okay with some value add. He's fine with that, as long as it's not a complete, like very very bad thing. Now, foundation versus structural. One of these is probably more expensive than the other. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could leave him unchecked in general if he's okay with value add and doing rehab to some. But there's some people like me, like I don't want any structural foundation, like nothing. Like I don't want to do any of that stuff. So to me, it's a hard pass. Like I really don't want to deal with those issues.
Yeah, and foundation and structural. I mean, those are very deep rooted issues. It's not like, oh, some of the ovens don't work or something. This is like this is a big job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I really should just ask him what he thinks. But since we're talking like he's okay with some value add, probably shouldn't just say no problems whatsoever. Cap rate. he doesn't have a again, no, nothing super specific, but he did say that he knows like the general cap rate here in Indiana at least for this is actually like 6 to 6.5. And when you're trying to buy, you don't want it to be that low. You need to be at least a little bit higher. So
Correct.
at minimum, I would think 7, and even then, that might be a little low, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, most people are trying to buy it, north of, I mean, it depends. Some are 8, okay with 8, but some want 9 to 10 or that kind of range. So yeah, it depends. I always find that funny because like if everyone thinks they have to buy at 7.5, 8 and higher, and everyone thinks that they're gonna sell at 6.5, like that's conflicting, right? Because every single person is like, oh, I'm not gonna buy at this, but I'm gonna sell at this. And if the buyer eventually in the future is gonna be thinking the same thing. So how many people actually sell at 6.5? I don't know. Probably really rare unless it's class A. But I always find that funny that I always caution that in the underwriting because, if you're not willing to buy at that, what makes you think you're going to get a poor sucker to buy at that X amount of years in the future, unless you really are just churning it around and making it, really, really nice.
Or if cap rates simply change naturally, but you can't control that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Um, NOI. Let's go back to this. It's now again, it actually did just input something for me. So it calculated based on the minimum here. Um, 560. Is that something I can just trust? Like just that if I just don't know what I'm doing?
Yeah, you can put in your own numbers, but it is also doing the calculate. What it's doing is it's looking at, okay, here's what we think $1 million mortgage is. Or I'm sorry, based on what's your purchase, $8 million mortgage, right? Here's what we think an $8 million mortgage is every month times 12. Here's what you said you wanted the cash flow to be every month times 12. So based on that, we know what the minimum NOI needs to be from those two numbers. And it's just doing some helpful math for you. You can change it. You can use it as a guiding post, but it's just there to help you make that calculation.
Got it. Yeah. I feel weird about putting maximum on NOI or like cap rate because it's like there is no maximum. Please, please give me as much as possible. All right, that's the end of that. However, I do see that I might have I calculated the 100% a little weird here. What I might do is make everything 25, or maybe make like since he specifically mentioned it, the cash flow a little bit higher, maybe like 40% or something, and have the rest of them. Oops, I have the rest of them. Jeez. Can we? Can't do basic math in my head here. Pardon me.
Yeah, just spread it around till you get to 100. I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, obviously you want to make sure it's right, but I wouldn't stress it too much. And you can always change it if and I recommend people to constantly change it until they find the sweet spot. You're not going to know until you start underwriting deals. You'll just get this. In the beginning, if you're brand new, it's going to be hard to know what a good deal is. But eventually, over time, when you underwrite enough, you'll just get a gut feeling by looking at it. And I have like my algorithm dialed in to where I look at it. I look at the deal, high level summary numbers, cash flow, if we're talking Morby methods, cash and maturity, buyer surplus, all that kind of stuff. And I just know it's like, yeah, I would buy that deal. And then if I look at my match score, it also says, yeah, you would buy that deal. And I'm like, I've got my match score to be pretty well in alignment with what I would consider a deal I would buy. For me, 80%, and it's how I try to design the algorithm too. 80% or above basically means, yes, I would buy the deal. 70% or above basically means it might be a deal. It probably needs a little bit of tweaking, in some areas to go in and make some changes, but it's a high enough score for me to take another look and dive into and enter into negotiations, right? Below 70, it's like there ain't nothing saving this deal. Like it's not even worth my time looking at. So I just delete, not delete, sorry. I just archive those and just get them out. Like that's the whole point of the software, is to filter out the good from the bad, reduce all the noise, and help people save time and just focus on focus on the good deals. Why do you need to spend time and get bogged down on all this other stuff? So I just get rid of all that noise. So this is really important to kind of spend time, and you'll know once you start underwriting what that looks like, and you'll get a feel for it.
That makes sense. Yeah. So basically, it sounds like you're not sitting here trying to marry a deal immediately. You're sitting here trying to swipe right on Tinder and then go on a date with them. Pretty much.
Pretty much, exactly.
Sounds good. All right. So that's financial criteria. I'm looking for a next button. Do I say?
Yeah. So you can go any one of those tabs. You don't have to go in order. I mean, you'll go to locations. So this is where you'll select the states, right? What states do you want to buy in? In my case, it's only Indiana. It could be in multiple states. It really just depends.
Blue states and red states. That's a nice little distinction right there. Edge defaults for Indiana. Configure defaults and zip codes. So something he did tell me here. Hang on. Let's go in order here. State defaults. When no specific zip code data is available, there are zip codes when the property tax percentage annual and insurance annual will be used from the zip code settings. When no specific code is available. What is this taking from then?
Yeah, so soon, I'm going to have pre-populated defaults, but essentially what that's going to do is you could put in a percent of the purchase price, and it even gives you some little tooltip math down there that will indicate, hey, based on this state, on average, property taxes are this rate. And that's just using a placeholder or for an estimate. So for both property tax and especially insurance. So multifamily will be a little bit different than the single family policy. So there may need to be some adjustments there, but most of the data sources that are available, they don't have any sort of estimates on insurance. So this is the system's way of being able to estimate what insurance cost is. Same thing with property taxes. A lot of platforms out there aren't able to generate, for one reason or another, the annual property taxes. So that's just a way to estimate in case the data that you pull in isn't returning any results, it'll calculate it for you.
Gotcha. So these are the is this this is not the that you said that's coming later. This is just a placeholder.
Yeah, you could put that in for the state, and that way it'll calculate values for you. So that way you have something to calculate, and it's not just showing zero. Because if you upload a list, or if you're underwriting it and you have 0 for property taxes and 0 for insurance, it's going to look like it's a great cash flowing deal, but it's really not, because those fields are missing, if that makes sense. So we want to make sure that when deals get underwritten, especially when you're doing bulk uploading, that doesn't come back as 0.
Got it. So for now, I'll go ahead and put what's listed here, just for fun. And as I have no idea if these numbers are correct. To be completely honest, I'm just
no problem.
Not forgetting about it is the only thing.
And then property taxes are really done at the county level. I think we're getting way too in the weeds to do it at the county level, but I do have the ability to do it at the zip code level, which I think is a fair compromise. So if you're like, hey, there may be some states that have wild swings depending on where it is in the state, that would probably be an appropriate way to handle it, is just by going off zip code of like, hey, everything in this zip code will have this rate for taxes and insurance, that kind of stuff.
Got it. Okay. Now, target zip codes for Indiana. He did tell me he gave me a little clue. He said that he wants it to be in Indy, but in like the nicer outskirts of the loop. of the Indianapolis Loop.
So like
So
Carmel or Westfield area or what?
yeah, a couple places he gave me was like Martinsville, Indiana, or Canby, Indiana. I can look up what those zip codes are just to use them here. Um, Zip code for Canby, Indiana is apparently 46133. Oops, 46133. I can add more. I see here. By the way, oops.
Yep.
Radius around it. No specific radius around. What is this radius of what? What is this measuring?
Proximity to that location. That's it.
In miles or like in
miles? Yeah.
In miles. Okay. In miles. Let's see. I don't even know how big Canby, Indiana is, but I don't know. Let's say 30 is a little high, honestly. Just to have,
Yeah,
just
I mean,
to have
10,
fun.
15, whatever, something like that.
Yeah. Gonna go with 20, just because again he used those as examples. He didn't say specifically in this city or in this area. So there's one. I do see the property tax again, similar thing. I don't know what that is, but you know, what was the other one? Martinsville, Indiana is 46151. Let's do the same thing. And add. Okay. Save defaults and zip codes. All right. So I can go back and see it by clicking on the state. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And you can select multiple states, right? You could, in the future, what I'm going to have is like those pre-populated values, not the radiuses. Like that's all based on the user, right? I don't think users are going to go in and like do that for every state. They're really probably going to focus on their core market state, but I will be having default property tax and default insurance percentages for people to use if they just like are like, hey, I want to buy in 50 states, but I don't want to take the time to put in all this 50 times, then that'll be an option for them to just use the defaults. So that's something that's coming soon too.
Gotcha. Let me try this select red states thing. Oh, great. And I can just immediately deselect them too, which is nice.
Yep.
And this, did I lose it?
That one I built for myself because I don't want to buy anything in blue states. So.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I may have lost the ones that I did though. Is that what happened?
Yeah, you have to save it. It's not saving in real time, at least not yet. So you'll have to save like your entire buy box up at the top.
Oh, so I have to do this. Oh, so wait, so
Correct.
did this?
Yeah.
This one. Okay. This yeah, a lot of this was erased actually. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well, I'll look at maybe improving that, but we can cover that later. You can just keep moving through the locations and
yeah.
Let's see.
That's the last of the
yeah,
locations.
I have I'll have to look at your account because I have that one is for, and we can do that on another call. That one is for sending out LOIs. So we're not at that point yet, but we can enable that when you get there at that point, get your email connected, all that kind of stuff. So that way you can send out LOIs directly out of the platform. But that one does require, that's actually a good note for you to have if you don't have an email already. Do you have like a custom domain email or are you planning on just using like Google or something?
I'm just doing Gmail for now. I don't have a custom domain.
Okay. But yeah, we'll get that set up another time. And then, so if you go over to the settings, this will be like your default parameters. So this is helpful because, if you're underwriting a lot of deals, you don't want to have to start over every time and like completely put in all the percentages. So just having that is helpful because it'll just auto populate. So it'll get to the point where if you just put in some of the basic features like the NOI, the purchase price, the income, a lot of this stuff, these calculations will just happen in the background.
Got it. So all this stuff, like I can obviously change it, but it will take stuff that I fed it, and it'll spit everything out.
Correct. Yep. So if
So
you
it'll
had,
it'll filter too.
yeah, if you had $1 million in revenue, and 10% management, it would be $100,000, right? Like it'll just calculate that for you.
Right. Setting the privacy, showing marketplace deal match notifications, minimum score to receive email notifications for this buy box. Okay, don't notify me unless it's at least this or higher. Deal match for auto underwriting, minimum score for bulk uploaded deals. To pass underwriting, bulk uploaded deals. So if there's a
So
bunch,
I don't think this one's more probably geared towards single family. I don't know if there's a way for me to implement this, I'll do it, but multifamily is not really scalable in terms of bulk underwriting. And what I mean by that is you're not going to be able to upload a list of 500 properties and then just bulk send LOIs. First of all, LOIs are treated a lot different in commercial and multifamily than they are in single family. Single family, that's kind of, they really don't take it serious at all. But in multifamily, that's kind of like the natural first step and more of a serious step. I would say it's viewed more seriously than it is in single family. And then, like, you're not gonna know what a good deal is because the NOI is not public, right? A lot of the value is going to be driven off of what the NOI is. You could probably, to some extent, model out what you think the target NOI is, but I think that might be a little bit of a dangerous game to play if you're really trying to bulk upload and bulk underwrite multifamily at least, because yes, if you're a good operator, you could drive up NOI to a certain extent, but I mean, how much are you really going to drive it? 5%, maybe 10%. There gets to a point where like the market is the market, the comps are the comps. Like you're not going to just show up and magically, you can demand a $300 per door increase like that. No one's going to pay just because you are now the owner, right? Like no one cares. They're definitely not going to pay that. So there's only so much you can do. So that's more geared towards single family as far as the bulk underwriting.
got it. That makes sense. Auto send LOI again, bulk upload. I can enable or disable that. Zip code buy box matching only. So it has to be in this area if the location really matters to me. Like this little warning, danger zone. This action cannot be undone. Don't click that.
Yep.
Yep. Awesome. So that's basically it. So all I gotta do is just implement these things and just save. So do I have to say save box like
that? Just go ahead and save it for now, and then we'll go back out of that screen back to your buy box page. You can just hit the back button, or you can hit my buy boxes. And so let's go over to your profile. Well, even if you hit that banner right there up at the top, like where it says, if you go back, that yellow banner, I think there's a publish button. I can't see on my screen. If
Publish
you read
profile.
that message,
I just published.
oh, okay. It was able to publish. Okay, cool. I couldn't see on my screen. Yeah, I mean, it really should be that simple, and then that shows up in the results for people when they're searching for. But the thing is, so you're using that buy box that you created is really your buyer's buy box, but people are going to think it's your buy box. So that's why in the beginning I was like, you should probably not structure it that way. They should really have their own buy box on the platform, if that makes sense. And then you should have your own. But as far as like getting set up and tested, I mean that, and you can play around with it, how set it up however you want. You can do some other things. So if you want to take the time to fill out like your bio and stuff like that, you could obviously do that and then have that be more of like a landing page website for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, like right here.
And you can put like profile picture. If you kind of scroll around in the media, you can put a profile picture and add some customizations. If you wanted to put a book a call with me link or something like that, if you want to put a URL or a video, you could do that. If you want to put your social media links, you could do that on the social tab, that kind of stuff.
Got it. Very good. Awesome. So it sounds like we basically got it done.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much the basics of getting the buy box set up. And then once you get past that, the next natural step would be starting to underwrite some deals.
Yeah. Awesome. Very good.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. And appreciate everyone watching. And we will be back again, probably at some point tomorrow, to walk through next steps on underwriting. So see you later.
Appreciate the help, Mundo.